Hello, everyone. This is Martin again. And last week, if you remember, I talked about the practical sides of being self employed, all the things that you have to do when you're a self employed person, which, which is quite important because you need to be able to do all those things in the early stages. But this week, I wanted to talk about um, what happens to you as you become older. In other words, when you're older and when you become you're a self-employed person like me that's been doing it for 40 years, um, you find that it's then starts to become more of a physical and a mental side to being self-employed. Because when you're young, in all honesty, you have energy which is endless, and you naturally assume that you're always going to keep going. You feel invincible, and so you should when you're young. Um, but you don't, and you also don't think about 30 or 40 years down the line of being self-employed. Um, and so in this video, I wanted to just reflect on my experiences and how it's affected me um, over the years. And I think what you have with any physical job, whether you're a plasterer or a plumber or a floor layer like me or any trade that has a physical aspect to it, will inevitably at some point affect parts of your body, which will be either your knees, your back, your shoulders, your neck. And each person will be affected differently depending on how they cope with the situation and the amount of work that they've done over the years. Um, but it also is not just about the physical side, it's also the mental side. Because I think when you're self employed, you're always thinking ahead. Uh, the responsibility of owning your own business never really leaves you. Um, and I think also it's quite hard to switch off mentally um, to being self employed. Now, again, this video isn't going to be a long video, but I think when you're coming into self employment, um, you know, it's important to, and as I say, it's when you're young, you won't think about this. But I think a lot of the older tradesmen out there will relate to what I'm saying here in this video. I think you will find over time um, that the physical aspect of being self-employed will start to take its toll, um, and that can happen pretty much at any age, effectively. But the older you get, the harder it becomes for your body to adjust and your body to cope with what you used to be able to be doing. Now, I know I touched on this in other videos about the physical side of being self-employed, doing a laboring job, and also the mental side, which if you do find, check out those videos. I think you'll find them quite interesting. Um, so it's important to understand that you have to start considering um, your physical side of being able to do what you're doing at the moment. Um, and you will notice over time certain aspects of your body that's telling you that it's becoming more and more difficult. Um, and the fact that you've got to start to think about pacing what you're doing, trying to think about maybe um, adjusting how you carry on with your self-employment business. And also maybe when you start to get to the point of these things, to start to think about how long are you going to be able to keep doing this in terms of wanting to, when you do finally retire, be able to retire in a way that you can still do other things, because you have to also understand that, you know, you don't want to get to the end of your self-employment career in terms of the physical side and mental side, and then find it's quite detrimental to you at the end. But this, like I say, this, I just wanted to put this video out, and I know people won't think about this too much, but I think it's quite important to kind of come through on this, to let people know. And this is just purely reflection from how I felt over the 40 years of being self-employed. And I don't regret being self-employed whatsoever. It's been absolutely wonderful, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. But I just wanted to come across to you to understand the long-term picture of what's likely to take place over a period of time as a self-employed person. And I'd love to hear comments from people in relation to how they've been coping with working as a self-employed person at the latter part of their career, or the latter part of their life, in terms of the self-employment. And do make some comments. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about what I would have done differently if I started again. And I think you'll find that quite interesting, because I have quite a lot of good points to come across, which I think will help. But in the meantime, thank you very much for listening. Any comments, please leave the comments. Let me read, and get in touch if you need to. Thank you very much.